Coming to paperback and e-readers, Steam Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of the Steam Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. I got a couple of comments from viewers on my Spider-Man and Wonder Woman videos telling me that people don't need to relate to their characters. Now, this whole concept of saying that the audience doesn't need to relate to the characters is completely ridiculous, because if the audience can't relate to the characters, then they have no incentive to invest in the story. Now, as someone who has had over 25 years of novel, comic book, and screenwriting experience, before I ever even think to put fingers to the keyboard for a story, I have to answer three critical questions, and those are: who is the main character, what is they want, and what obstacles are going to keep them from getting it, and the most important question I have to answer is: why should we care? And in the case of we, I not only am talking about myself as related to putting fingers to the keyboard to care, to keep being motivated to write that story, but the audience has to care, and there has to be something that the audience relates to as related to that character that makes them care to be able to continue reading these stories, because if the audience can't relate to the characters, then the audience has no reason to even consider picking up that book or even taking a look at what's going on between the pages. That's what flies over the heads of those two viewers who made that statement, saying that Spider-Man and Wonder Woman don't have to relate to us. No, when it comes to characters, in order for a character to resonate with an audience, there has to be something that the audience relates to with that character to make them care enough to pick up that book and look at the interior. You have to have something there that makes them see themselves in that character or see something about their experience. That's what you have to offer a reader when you're writing a story. When you're writing a story, you have to make that character relatable to people. It has to relate to their lives and their experiences. Otherwise, if you don't answer the question, why should they care, then they don't care about this story enough to even think about taking a look at it. And if they don't care enough to look at it, what they're going to do is walk away and leave that book right on the shelves. And that's what's been happening over the last 30 years to both Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. Both of these characters have suffered because there's nothing in those books for people to relate to. No, what happened with Spider-Man is that he had a One More Day story where he went completely out of character, compromised with Mephisto to basically change reality so he could have one more day with by ending his marriage with Mary Jane to save Aunt May. And that's when Peter Parker went from being a relatable everyman to somebody nobody related to, and nobody relates to him because he basically has no direction anymore, because he compromised his whole message that's related to having great power and great responsibility, and he wound up betraying that whole principle by going out here and making that compromise with the devil so that Aunt May could have one more day. And as he had one more day, his whole series went into a complete state of decline because no one could relate to Peter Parker anymore. No one could relate to Peter Parker anymore because he didn't take his power and use it responsibly to be able to go on with his life and honor the memory of Aunt May. No, that's what he did, and again, he's no longer relatable, and that's why Spider-Man sales have fallen from the days where it was selling over almost a million copies with Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1, and selling 750,000 to 500,000 copies a month from the start of the 1986 David Michelini Todd McFarlane run. I mean, we went from a book that was selling hundreds of thousands of copies every month, where the character was relatable as a married man. As a married man, Peter Parker was a relatable person to many young urban professionals who related to his story and his experience because he was living a life just like them. He was living a life like many young urban 20-somethings who just came out in grad school and were moving on with their lives, it was relatable to most folks because you have struggles with bills, you have struggles getting your life started, and Spider-Man was relating to average, everyday people because he was married to Mary Jane, who was a working model. A lot of people wanted to say she was a supermodel. No, she was a working model. And again, working models, basically, you get different gigs, and again, it's all part of life. Again, these kids who came out of high school were growing up and becoming adults, and that was relatable to the average everyday person and made Spider-Man adventures really, again, something people wanted to read and enjoy. But we got that brand new day established, and again, that one more day, and that one more day made the book unrelatable to most people. And the most recent Spider-Man reboot, the millionth one, shows us a pathetic Peter Parker, nobody relates to. And again, I read that first issue, and again, failed to answer that question of why should we care, because he wasn't a relatable guy. I mean, Peter Parker, as I see it today, could be a very cool character if they wrote him right. I mean, in this age where you have kids going out here doing gig work and freelance work, Peter Parker would be absolutely perfectly relatable to people. I do the same thing with Isis in my Isis series stories, where she goes where she's needed. She works all sorts of what she calls craptacular jobs. And again, the craptacular jobs were supposed to be relatable too today, in that people have to go work wherever they can and take whatever jobs they can for whatever money they can, like the Door Dashers and many other people who do freelance and gig work. And again, I wanted to say that this student was learning about life as she was working on these jobs, but that's what makes her relatable. And again, Peter Parker is not relatable to anyone these days. And again, if a character isn't somebody people relate to, then people have less incentive to go out here and read their stories. And the same thing is for Wonder Woman right now. The Wonder Woman character has been in a rut, I'd say, for a good 30 to 40 years. I mean, the character has been in a creative rut because the character in of herself is not relatable. Most readers, when they read Wonder Woman, the book is a chore to read, and it's a chore to read because she's not having the struggles of a regular woman. She's not having to deal with the problems everyday women relate to. I mean, if you're a feminist, yeah, you might want to read because of the political symbolism, but when you read the book, there's nothing there that connects you to your life or your world, or shows you something that this character is going to offer you. Because one of the things I do as a writer is I have to offer people something. Again, like I said many years before, you have to offer the reader something. You either have to offer them a laugh, you have to either offer them an adventure, or you have to offer them a solution. Again, these are things that make the story things that they can care about and relate to, because if you don't make a story relatable, then the reader has no reason to care enough to buy those stories. No, the reader doesn't have a reason to care, and if they don't have a reason to care, they don't buy your stories. And this is why many American comics are struggling right now. Many American comics are struggling right now because nobody relates to those characters anymore. Like in the case of Peter Parker, nobody relates to this guy because he's such a loser. I mean, he's such a loser that George Costanza looks at him and sees himself as a high-value man. And I know George Costanza is an old character from the old Seinfeld show for many of the younger viewers, or he's again like old pathetic guys like Sheldon and his other friend on The Big Bang Theory. Again, before they began to wake up, Leonard and Sheldon basically realized, okay, we got to change our behavior. Again, we could relate to Leonard and Sheldon as related to things because they were these nerds who just didn't know how things in life work. But Peter Parker basically is pathetic to the point where you just can't relate to him. And again, in storytelling, you've got to have characters that people relate to, people can connect with and say, hey, that's me. Hey, that's my experience. Hey, I know what he's talking about because I've been through that. That's what people want to see in a character. That's what they want to see in a story. They want things that they can relate to, and you can make characters relatable and still make them true to their mission. I mean, mean, this is done all the time by seasoned writers, and a seasoned writer can make a character relatable as related to saying, hey, that's my experience, hey, that's me, hey, that's what I'm all about. I mean, that's what good writing does, and this is what comics don't have, but manga does. I mean, manga stories are relatable to people. Manga stories are stories that people can say, hey, that's my experience, hey, that's me. Yes, it's a fantasy, but there's still something that everyone can relate to. And again, having people relate to a story, again, draws them in and makes them care. And that's something I do here at SJS Direct. I mean, when I do stories, I do stories to try to make it where you can say, hey, even though this character is in a certain place, they're still dealing with stuff I gotta deal with. For example, I did a story called All About Nikki, a series of screenplays, and a lot of black women related to that character. Even though she was a rich character in Beverly Hills, they could relate to her coming out as a teenager, dealing with parents who have divorced, dealing with trying to adjust to a new life in a new city, dealing with issues with her family, dealing with things as related to different issues like bullying, thirsty guys, and other things. And I have other characters like Esteem. She's supposed to be a demon, but she left the Legion, and we have her dealing with this whole issue of dealing with leaving the Legion, and also dealing with things as related to her relationship with Christ, and also her dealing with everyday issues and dealing with things in life. And then there's the John Haynes character. The John Haynes character, as I wrote him as a character who, again, represents the average everyday black man, and a lot of black men relate to John Haynes because he's this black man. Yes, he's in this position as a CEO, but even in his first story, he's dealing with issues as related to classism in the black community with the black elite. He's dealing with issues as related to intra-racism. He's dealing with things like racial profiling. He's dealing with all sorts of struggles as related to black life. And many black men who work in the workforce or who are about to enter the workforce can relate to his experiences. And since they relate to his experiences, they can pick up his story and relate to that story and pick up that story and see themselves in that story and see solutions sometimes for their own lives in some cases. I mean, when you write really good stories, people can see connections to themselves. I even did this with the black goth character Matilda Crowley in the Spinsterella books. People who weren't even goth could relate to her. People who were goth could relate to her. People who were biracial could relate to her. And again, relating to a character, relating to their story, that's paramount to connecting with an audience. And again, if you can connect with your audience, you can sell more work. If you can connect with more readers, you can sell more stories. And if you can make people care, that can build your word of mouth. It can build your word of mouth and reach those outside casual readers and build up your readership and get those sales numbers up. That's all part of relating to people. And this is what those two viewers did not understand. When you don't relate to character, when people can't relate to your character, you're not going to be able to reach that larger audience, and your book will languish for years like Spider-Man and Wonder Woman have. Most of those books are struggling right now. They're struggling to find an audience because people look at these books. They look at these books written by people like Tom King and say, you know, there's nothing here that says me. And people look at Spider-Man and say, this character's nothing like me at all. They're not dealing what I deal with. They're not dealing with what I'm going through. They're not living what I live. They're not out here in this world like me. Again, when you write stories, again, stories are about people, about the experiences people have. And if you can't really make your story relate to people, then you're going to have a hard time finding an audience for it, because people are going to look at it and go and say, hey, there's nothing here like me. There's nothing here about me. There's nothing here that tells me a story. And that's why comics are getting destroyed by manga, and this is why they're getting crushed by the literary market. You're getting crushed because you don't have anything there that makes anybody care. You don't have anything that connects real people and real experiences to the people in your stories. There's nothing here that speaks to people to say, this character is going through what I go through. This character struggles what will I struggle with. This character is offering me a solution to my problem or an escape to my problem. Now, comics in many cases used to offer people an escape to their problems, and sometimes people would find either a laugh or a solution. But these days, you don't find any sort of character that you relate to. You don't find any sort of laugh or escape from your problems. No, they bring you more problems. And since they bring you more problems, people don't care to buy comics about people they don't relate to, people they don't know in their neighborhood, people they don't see on their block or in their area. I mean, when I read a comic these days, especially a Marvel or a DC comic, there's nobody there I can connect with and feel like, okay, this is a person I know. I mean, when I read a Batman comic, the book feels like it's something from a sociopath who is antisocial. I mean, it has no connection to people, especially after they killed Alfred. After they killed Alfred, who was Batman's connection to people, Batman feels disconnected, and when I read most comics that outside of many of the indie books, I don't really feel any sort of connection. Again, that's a big problem, because if people can't relate to your characters, again, they can't see an experience. And again, when you're writing, you want to make characters that everybody can say, hey, if this person is doing stuff I'm doing, this person is living a life like I'm living, or I want to live. This person is doing stuff I want to do. I mean, you don't get that anymore. And that's why comic sales are at an all-time low and manga sales are at an all-time high, because manga understands this. Manga understands this overall. Even some novelists like myself understand this. We understand that if people can't see themselves in a story or see an experience in a story, and what I mean by see themselves does not mean Mary Sue, I'm inserting myself in the story. No, it means that this person has life experiences that remind me of me or remind me of things that I know somebody's been dealing with or has lived through. It reminds them of something that they, again, have dealt with, or something that they basically imagine themselves to be. Because another part of it is people have to imagine themselves like, oh, I want to be this character. And it's hard to do that because of the sanitized way that they write comics these days. And again, people don't understand how important it is for people to relate to characters, because when people relate to characters, again, some people even mold their whole lives after characters, or see that they start dressing like them or acting like them, because they go, oh, this guy is so cool, I like the way he's dressing, or I like the way this girl is dressing, or I like the way this girl is talking. I mean, I've seen children basically, again, copy characters because they like how this character is. And again, that's how much they relate to that character. And again, that's not what we're really lacking in today's comics. What we're really lacking is that ability to create relatable characters. And people want somebody who they can say, hey, this is somebody who's cool, somebody who I would like to be like, somebody who at least is in a place where there's something there. And that's what people want in characters. They don't want to see some loser going out here and being miserable. Or in the case of Wonder Woman, somebody so bland that you just can't really have no rough edges that connect you to them. You people want characters that they can say, hey, that's a person I want to be friends with. That's who I want to hang out with. Again, that's who they spend money on. They spend money on people who are cool people, who are making them happy. That's where I gotta disagree with a lot of these editors who say, oh, we want to keep the characters miserable. No, happy customers buy more books. And again, people who can relate to characters buy more books and invest in those books. This is Business 101 as related to sales. People buy characters that they relate to, and they buy their stories. Again, if we can relate to that story, you can sell more units, and people who relate to a story will buy the same book 2-3 times, watch the TV show, watch the movie. And you want relatable characters, because relatable characters, again, are how you make a connection with people. Just like I'm making a connection with you online by talking to you online, telling you about my experiences as a writer. My experiences as a writer is understanding that when I write stories, I'm writing about people that you know, people that I know, people that are out here, people we can see as human beings. And if we don't have good stories about people, then people don't care. And again, that's where the comic book industry is right now. You make people nobody cares about. You make people nobody relates to. You make people nobody connects with. And if you keep making people like this, in these antisocial comics, then you're not going to have that word of mouth that you need to build the buzz to sell your books. And that's where the comic book industry is, because they've got people like these viewers basically saying, oh, we don't need to relate to the characters. No, if you don't relate to the characters, you're not going to get the sales, because in order to get people to buy comics, you have to give them that reason to care, and if you don't make them care, they're not going to buy anything at all. Now, if you want to check out many of the relatable characters in the SJS Direct universe, you can find their stories on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, in the books of the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the Spinsterella series, and books like The Thetas, my vampire novel Eternal Night, and many other titles. And you can also find my relatable characters in my comic books like John Haynes at Death's Door, which is available on Lulu.com. And if you want to see me continue to be able to make stories about people, you can help me be able to pay for things like art for the interiors and the covers by dropping donations to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.